Welcome back, artists. I'm Wyatt Paints, and this week it's a little different because I lost my phone, so I couldn't record my normal intro. Hopefully, I'll think of something creative enough for you to not notice, except for me telling you. But besides that, I'm back in the DC universe painting up a pair of Kryptonians that recently made a big splash in the latest Superman movie, Kora Zor-El and the bestest good boy, Krypto. This week's sponsor, SuperShark, once again provided a banger of a sculpt, and as per usual, they put in the extra effort of having options for your print. I'll point those out when we get to them. My main goal today is to really simplify the painting process. I'm only going to be using base coats, washes, and dry brushing to get a finished project that'll look good on the shelf. But enough chitter chatter, we've got work to do. Meet me over at the painting table. I'm going to grab my brushes. Let's get started. First things first, let's take a look at this model. Here I have one of the alternate sculpts available with this woven texture top. She also comes with a traditional top, but I wanted to see how dialed in my resin settings are, which seem pretty spot on. Textures like this can be difficult to get clean prints on, but thankfully, since they also offered two choices on the chest emblem, printing it upside down let me hide all the support points and get a pretty pristine print. Thanks, SuperShark, but that's not to say I had zero issues printing. This mud splash on the base came out all kinds of wonky. I had this weird layer shift on just one side of about ½ an inch. Usually something like this would require a full reprint to get a good part, but I thought it was salvageable, so I drembled down the outside edge until it could fit in the base. I will have to do some camouflage work on the inside to make it unnoticeable, but it should be fine. Now these plinths seem simple enough, so I wanted to go with a simple color scheme of red and blue metallic to complement each other. Kara's base got an overbrush of red gemstone to match the majority of her outfit, followed by a dry brush of greedy gold to catch the edges and give it a rose gold kind of look. While Krypto's plinth received an elven armor base followed by a dry brush of mithril. Cruising up to the rocks, I decided to paint them similar to the render, as dark muddy brown rocks. But that layer slip will need a bit of attention first, but it's nothing a bit of sterling mud texture paint can't handle. And while I usually advocate for thinning down your paints, this is not the time for it. In general, you want to use this thick and straight from the bottle. Piling this on the slip area will get the granules to stack up randomly to hide the mistake. It only took a few minutes to go around the piece to ensure all the unnatural looking bits got a good slathering before I set it aside to dry. I really need to let this set up completely before I do anything else, or I run the risk of knocking off all of my camouflage. While that dries, I jumped over to do the other rocks in a deep base of brigandine brown. This is definitely a fast and silly painting section, with the only goals being smooth and even coverage. And a bit of brush abuse may be in order if you're using a larger brush like I am. But you don't really need to stress about getting in super deep. The black prime will just act as your deepest shadow. Now for a highlight, using large floof and swapping to leather brown. I used a somewhat heavy dry brush to quickly brighten up the rocks. I'm looking to cover about 60% of the surface, so I want to ease up to it. That calls for checking and double checking whenever I reload, because if you touch the model with the overloaded brush, you're going to be back to square one. Use the texture palette and your hand if necessary to knock off and double and triple check your paint load, because there ain't no shame in the painted off hand game. By now my mud splash had fully dried, so I gave it a similar treatment, this time swapping out my starting brown for bootstrap. Then I gave it a quick once over with sepia ink. Always thin down your inks. They tend to be a bit more intense than you first realize. And being ink, if you didn't varnish, you really can't reverse it without a repaint. Once that dried, I was back to Big Floof with a dry brush of Command Khaki. Since I wanted heavy coverage on the outside splashes, I started there before working my way to the center. And for extra safety, doing the underside will help make sure the majority of the paint has been used before committing to the center bowl. I want my paint load to be nice and low by the time I get there so that it can pick up the finer details. That's kind of the secret of dry brushing. The less paint you have on your brush, the finer details it'll be caught on. Fitting the splash into the base, it was looking good, and having slightly different colors gives it a bit of separation from the larger rocks without looking too different. The same goes for Krypto's base. Speaking of Krypto, getting started with the Bestest Boy cape seems appropriate. First, a quick overbrush of greedy gold for the emblem. Just using a solid gold color here gives me strong dog tag vibes, and I'm about it. Then, moving on to the cape, I want a dynamic look while keeping it super simple. So, chaotic red base followed by a pure red medium heavy dry brush fits the bill. While I'm looking to build this highlight to full coverage on the edges and billowed areas, the valleys will only get a light pass for a chunky blend. Just let the folds of the cape guide you. If an area looks a little bit rough, give it a few minutes to dry and do a second light pass to smooth it out. For Krypto's body, we need a big white dog. So I'm going to start with a medium gray for an all-over base coat. While I am looking for an opaque coat, I really don't mind a few dark spots here and there. Once we do a highlight pass, these spots will add a bit of subtle variation to the fur. Speaking of that highlight, a light dry brush of Spaceship Exterior is gonna be it. If you do this right, it's gonna bring out the texture, so just take your time and ease it up. Fine details demand fine control of how much paint is on your brush. And save the head for last. By that time, you should have your touch down and know exactly how far you want to take the highlight. Then I loaded up some black to take care of the nose and eyes, which was pretty painless so long as you take it slow. There's no need to rush so close to the finish line. Just get nice clean lines here. And if your lines do get a bit jaggy, you can always come back with Spaceship for touch-ups when necessary, which would also be a good time to put a few dots in the eye for a bit of shine. And with that, Krypto is looking great. With Krypto finish up, I want to take a second to thank my subscribers over on Patreon. The names on the wall of greatness have grown, and it keeps me hyped for things to come. I can't thank you enough. If you would like to join the Painting Pantheon, you can check out my link below. Or you can support the channel right here on YouTube by watching another video, because I really need the watch time. I'd also like to extend a special thank you to this week's sponsor, SuperShark. They provided this week's STL, and not only does it deliver the usual high quality, but it also comes with multiple choices for print. Always a bonus. If you want to get your hands on this and many other high quality STLs, be sure to use their link below. They're still offering their supersized welcome pack as soon as you sign up for a subscription. Who knows, you might just find your next project. With that said, Supergirl needs some more attention. Let's get back to it. Checking out Kara, I want to start by taking care of all the red parts to the suit. And to make sure I tie them together with Krypto, I'm going to be using the same colors and methods I used earlier. And personally, whenever there's a skirt involved, I always find it easier to paint the skirt well before the legs. If you're wondering what's going on up under the skirt, this really isn't that kind of a channel, so the backside of her undergarment will have to do. Also note, you can totally leave this underside just this deep red. It keeps the painting simple and modest. Besides, I really don't want to invite people to look up her skirt. After the chaotic red, I gave all the red areas a chunky dry brush of pure red, slowly letting it build up on the billows. It's gonna start very blotchy at first, but you gotta trust the process. Just let it dry and come back with a second or even a third coat until the transitions smooth out and you have a very vibrant highlight. And unlike the skirt, be sure to hit up the underside of the cape. Just don't overindulge in it. It won't be too visible with Kara in the way. Moving up her torso, we have her hyperweave top. As a pro tip, whenever you see side panels on an outfit like this, know that they were put there in order to create an optical illusion to help slim the waist. So you're gonna wanna use contrasting tones. So for this outfit, I'm gonna be highlighting the center portions while leaving the side panels very dark. But first, I wanna handle these wrist guards. I'm looking for a reddish leather, so I started with a base of burgundy. Laying down the brown as an undertone is going to make this super simple. Next, a dry brush of chaotic red will start to blush up the larger panels. Just take it nice and easy for a smooth transition. Finally, a touch of pure red as the final super light dry brush. Now it's important for you to keep an eye on the raised details while we're doing this. While our focus is highlighting the underlying panels, those red edges are going to let us know what our paint is doing. That soft, crisp edging is exactly what I'm looking for. This is a good sign that I'm only putting down whispers of paint. Once the panels look good, it was time to switch to the blues, starting with dark sky for the darkest tone. Because of the fine surface texture, it's extra important that our paint is thin and that we don't overload the model, or it'll get filled in super quick. So stretch that paint as far as it can go to get that base coverage. For the first step of highlight, I stained my brush with a bit of Regal Blue. To be perfectly honest, I treated this like a final highlight and kept this baby soft as I slowly built up the color on the stretched and upward facing surfaces. Subtle is the absolute goal. The slower you do this, the smoother it'll look. Finally, I came back with Crystal Blue with the lightest dry brush I could possibly manage. I almost want it to seem like there's no paint coming off when I stroke, and I just have to trust that it's happening. Now it's time for this emblem to get a bit of love. And I'm gonna keep it simple, first with a solid fiendish yellow for the background. Followed by resplendent red for the S. Moving on to the hair, I was feeling like strawberry blonde would be a good look, so an orangish undercoat was in order, and demigod flames fit the bill. Once dried, a light dry brush of demonic yellow knocked down the orange to just a subtle shadow. Easy peasy blonde hair. Now for the skin. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently than normal and use a 3-wash method. But first, I need a solid opaque skin tone to start with. So tourmaline skin is going to be doing the heavy lifting. This will take a few coats if you're properly thinning your paint, so best turn off your brain and just let your hands take over. Honestly, the only thing that was going through my brain during this part was, if thighs save lies, Supergirl about to save the whole damn town. Yeah, I said what I said. Now that the skin is down, time for washing. And this step can't be any easier. You're gonna need 3 colors of wash: red, blue, and yellow. You can make these yourself, but I'm taking the no-brainer route since I had them on hand. Now personally, I like to do this from dark to light. So starting with blue thinned down, I mop the wash over the entire model. Yep, nice and messy. Now step 2 is to blot off as much of the wash as I can with a paper towel. No wiping. Paper towels are surprisingly rough. Wiping the surface could risk ripping up all the skin. So just soft blotting until I get all of it up. It may seem like a waste of time to put on such a thin wash only to take it off, but there's a super thin layer of that wash still on the model. So overall, the skin will just slightly darker, not blue. After a few good minutes of dry time, red wash is up next. Again, thinned down and mopped all over, then blotted up with a paper towel. And once again, ample amount of dry time. And like a broken record, we're gonna do it all again with yellow. These 3 simple steps add a full spectrum of light shading to the skin. And though you may not see it, the skin absolutely has a texture to it. And all those little bumps and valleys are gonna hold on to small amounts of wash to give the skin a much more natural look. Now, time to repeat the process on the face and hands. While I take care of that, I should let you know that you could totally come back with the original thinned down skin tone to highlight the areas how I normally do. But this project is all about simplicity, so moving on. I whited out her eyes with light gray, and then Night's Game came back to dot in her baby blues. Then I grabbed Demigod Flames to do her brows. Followed by a few thin down touches of red wash to gloss up her lips. Finally, Kara needed a bit of greedy to gild up all of her gold accents, like her belt, boots, and arm guards. And there's nothing too hard about it. Just use the side of your brush to get nice clean lines. Sort of like jogging out a victory lap, because this project is done. And wow, Kara and Krypto came out great. This project is prime example that you don't need expensive brushes and years of experience to get good results. Honestly, the hardest part is just going to be getting started. Hopefully this video has got you ready to start that project that you've been procrastinating on. And as a reminder, if you want to try your hand at Supergirl here, you can get the STL by heading over to this week's sponsor, SuperShark. As for me, the projects are stacking up pretty quickly as Halloween gets closer. That means I gotta get back to work. But as always, thank you for watching, stay creative, and always enjoy the process.